well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to everyone that is joining us today. My name is Genesis Steele and I'm the coordinator for civic engagement programs at the Gephardt Institute. And we are pleased to be here today for the Gephardt Institute's signature programs information session. So we have a lot of wonderful information that we'll be sharing with you. And just as a reminder, today's session is going to be a recorded session so that we can share it with other students who may be interested in the opportunities that we have at the Gephardt Institute. And during the session, we definitely invite you to leave your cameras on. We're fun-loving people. We love questions and we love to see you. And be sure to also leave your microphones on mute. As you hear the information that's presented and shared today, if you have any questions that do arise, feel free to share that with us in the chat, and there will be a question and answer session at the end of today's presentation, so that we'll make sure we can answer all the questions that you may have. Also, in just a moment, you will see a link pop up, I hope, in the chat, once I can find the chat again. And it's going to link you to a sign-in sheet. And if you can just take a moment to sign in so that we know that you were here. And it also helps us with additional info, planning different events in the future. That would be wonderful. So be on the lookout for that as we go through the presentation today. During today's 60-minute presentation, we will be providing an overview of the Gephardt Institute's 4 signature program. That includes the Civic Scholars Program, the Goodman Fellows Program, Arts at Civic Engagement, and our newest program, the Berline Fellows Program. We'll also provide you with the next steps, key dates, and a preview of upcoming sessions. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I'd like to share a little bit with you about the Gephardt Institute itself. So the Gephardt Institute's primary mission is to foster a culture of civic and community engagement at Washington University through educating students, catalyzing partnerships, infusing civic engagement throughout the WashU experience. And with this, we are able to offer a variety of events, cohort programs, resources, and opportunities for students, staff, faculty, and the community to participate in, and that offers opportunities to engage not only on campus, but in initiatives throughout the greater St. Louis region. The primary work that the Gephardt Institute focuses on is through 3 goals. We seek to educate our students for lifelong, engaged citizenship. We seek to catalyze partnerships that respond to community needs and priorities. And we also seek to infuse civic engagement throughout the WashU experience. Now that you've had a chance to learn a little bit more about what the Gephardt Institute is and what we do, let's take a more in-depth look at our 4 signature programs. I'd like to introduce you to Teresa Kuo, the Assistant Director for Civic Engagement Education at the Gephardt Institute, and share more about the Civic Scholars Program. Teresa?
Thanks, Genesis. And I like how you pinned all of us, but not you, so no one got to see your lovely face as you were speaking. So hopefully you can come on camera so folks can put a face to a name toward the end when we get to Q&A. So hi, everyone. Again, I'm Teresa Kuo. I use she, her pronouns. And I lead our Civic Scholars Program, and this will be my 5th or 6th cohort of scholars. I'm really excited. So our Civic Scholars Program is an academic program over the course of 2 years. So it is a program for rising juniors. So if you are currently a sophomore and going to be a junior, this is a program that you can apply to. It is an academic program, so it does require course enrollment over 4 semesters, and it totals 6 credits of coursework, 2 credits each semester your junior year, and then 1 credit each semester your senior year. As part of the program, scholars receive a $5,000 grant to develop a project, what we call our Civic Summer, to implement a project or engage in a substantial unpaid internship opportunity that really brings to life their civic goals and interests. There are 2 public speaking opportunities throughout the program where you get to share your passions, the issues, communities that you're interested in working with. And then when you return after your Civic Summer, there's an opportunity to share out about what you learned, what you accomplished, and the impact that you had in community. As part of the program, we also have immersive experiences during the fall break weekends. So next year we will be in DC, assuming all goes back to normal with COVID and we can travel. And then the following year, your senior year, will be in St. Louis. It is a cohort experience. So we'll have 17 students in the program, and there are several networking opportunities as part of it. We really strive to connect you to different civic leaders, et cetera. And then mentorship from current civic scholars, alumni. We now to date have over 100 Civic Scholars alumni across the country, across the world, who are doing really incredible things. And it's a really awesome network to be a part of and to tap into, not just for the time that you're in school, but also for time beyond. So that's a little bit about the program. One thing that we often get a question about is whether or not you can apply to the program if you're studying abroad. Unfortunately, unless you complete your study abroad like now, you wouldn't be able to do the Civic Scholars program and study abroad. Because it is a cohort-based program, it really is important that everyone is able to commit to that time together. That said, we have had many civic scholars who do their civic summers abroad. So a few years ago, when we could travel internationally, we had folks in South Africa, in Morocco, in Indonesia. So that is an opportunity for you to be able to travel abroad and really sort of construct that to your civic interests, which might be a little different than a study abroad program. The Civic Summer is always a big component. It's not the only component, but it is a big component of the program, and it is a question that we will ask you on the application. Just as a note, that question on the application, whatever you write, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to commit to that. It really is, we want to know, what are you interested in? What's something that you might want to get creative about and utilize your summer for? So just want to highlight some projects for you all, things that folks did over the summer. These can be projects or experiences that are self-directed, or they can be in partnership with organizations like through an internship, et cetera. So Norba Kite, who all of these are current seniors, so they just completed their civic summers. Nor founded an organization called Sun Pop Souk, which is a Milwaukee founded pop-up farmers market and art collective where artists, creators, craftsmen, and entrepreneurs of immigrant and refugee backgrounds could showcase and sell their work. So that was something that she created from scratch and did on her own as a self-led project. Mackenzie worked with Places for People here in St. Louis, supporting their development team and creating diversity and equity and inclusion language to use in their grant proposals. So really helping them to think about how are they equity forward and making sure that their language around seeking out funding was reflective of that. She also worked on interviewing people who utilized the resources and services at Places for People. Lorenzo co-founded a national collegiate network of peer counseling organizations to engage in productive exchanges of information. So if you're familiar with Uncle Joe's, Lorenzo is very involved in Uncle Joe's and wanted to figure out how do we connect with other colleges and universities across the country that are doing peer counseling work to make sure that they could help each other in building infrastructure, engage in promising and best practices. So his was also very self-directed. So that sort of gives you a range of different ideas. I think Lorenzo was the only one who did what he set out to do when he applied to the program, Nora and Mackenzie had changed. So just know that it's not something that you have to commit to. Part of the process of Civic Scholars is helping you to discover, like, what is that thing? What is that civic issue or community that really motivates you? And why are you the one in this moment to do that work and in partnership with experts who are already doing it? So that's a little bit about the program, and I'm happy to answer questions after we go through the other programs. So I'm going to pass it over to Nicole Murphy to talk about Goodman Fellows.
Thanks, Teresa. Yes, I'm Nicole Murphy. My pronouns are she, hers. I lead the Goodman Fellows program, which is a 9-month accelerated experiential learning program where students are able to form a cohort. There's 10 students. They form a cohort. They meet on a weekly basis over the summer while they're at their internships. And it's an opportunity for, much like Civic Scholars, for folks to sort of dive into what they care about or they're passionate about, and get some real experience and make contributions specifically to St. Louis. So yes, so there's a $5,000 stipend to support unpaid internships. We do weekly seminars, and we have neighborhood and community immersion experiences where we spend time historically, actually physically in the community. Last year was not in the community, but we get to meet with community leaders, and they get to tell us their story of their community, which is a really rewarding experience. And I already talked about it being cohort-based, but the main focus of the program is to help students develop as civic leaders, and to also help them foster an identity as a St. Louis citizen, and to better understand sort of the intersection between their passions and career goals. These are some older examples of folks who were in the program like 3 years ago. Alexis worked with TrailNet. She worked on sort of this project that TrailNet was doing. She worked on the report, specifically on the community input portion of the report. So she spent a lot of time reading what the folks they had communicated with in community had put forward, and produced this like major document for TrailNet. Sienna worked at the City of St. Louis in the, oh God, why can't I remember the name of the office? What? Stephanie.
Environmental studies. Environmental.
It wasn't it. That's not the name of the office. She worked in the office that for the city that deals with the environment. I apologize. And so she worked actually with another fellow who was also in that office, and they worked on like a footprint, like a green footprint for the city. They did a lot of research that moved forward after they left into being put to priorities for the city in terms of how the city can be more environmentally friendly. And then Daniel actually came to us. He was doing a second summer at the ACLU, where he was a part of the intake complaint unit. So would actually read and hear complaints from folks who were incarcerated, and then would help move them along in the process if they needed to be moved forward to legal. And then he also sort of led a process in developing several things for that unit involving, I don't know if you all are aware of the Justice app that the ACLU has, which records interactions with the police. But he worked with several other chapters on making that a more helpful resource, as well as sort of putting together some ideas for professional development within that unit for the ACLU. And I guess we should talk about if it's not in person. And so a great example of this is internships are secured after your acceptance into the program. We did that intentionally so that it would be easier for students to know that they have this funding for the summer, instead of trying to form relationships and then maybe you form a relationship and you don't get funding. And so this way you're aware you have the funding, you can go out and find an internship that you're really interested in. And so last year we switched everything to be virtual. It was an experiment. I would say that it worked really well. And that's as an example of the kind of support that's available from the Institute staff. Is only a couple of the students at that time had secured their internships. We had formed the cohort and then got news about the summer. Only a couple of folks had formed their relationships and their internships. And then Stephanie and I got together and we looked at the interests and the skills of the fellows and were able to match them with some organizations that needed some interns last summer, and that produced some interesting projects and work as well. I am going to stop rambling now. I believe I'm supposed to be introducing Stephanie. Yes, the City of St. Louis's Office of Sustainability. Thank you.
Actually, Nicole, I think you're supposed to introduce me. So I'll introduce myself. It's okay.
Oh my God.
I'm Roseanne Weiss, and I am lead educator for Arts and Civic Engagement, and my pronouns are she and hers. This is our third year of Arts and Civic Engagement, so it's a relatively new program, and we're very excited to be back. We took a hiatus last year. So we're starting anew, and we're glad you're here to hear about it. Arts and Civic Engagement is based on really deep traditions of arts as a powerful means of community expression and of social change. We see it as a platform for students to become immersed in arts-based community engagement and for arts organizations in our community to become very much involved with the Gephardt Institute as well, and a platform for deepening community relationships. So it is a cohort with three parts, and that we're very excited to be part of. It is a 5-month residency starting in mid-May and going through the fall for rising juniors and rising seniors. And it includes a $5,000 stipend, which everyone is always happy to learn about. We do match you with the local arts organizations that include civic engagement in their mission. We this year are able to have 4 organizations that we're working with, and we will embed 4 students as residents there. They are selected by us through an RFP process, and we collectively come up with what you will be learning and doing with that organization, which can be very exciting. And all of it's community-based with that notion that arts can be that powerful agent. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So here's just some sample residents. and these are the people from year before because we took the hiatus. This is Rob Hall, and he was working with the Griot Museum for Black History and Culture. Rob was very immersed in working with the director of the museum and the education director of the museum in being able to expand some of their programs to a younger audience. This is an institution that is an anchor institution for the north side of St. Louis. And the next slide. Thank you. This is Claire Wiley, and Claire was with the Contemporary Art Museum St. Louis that lots of people know as CAM. And she was a senior and studying architecture and psychology, and was very excited to be able to apply what she knows about spaces into communities. CAM is located in Grand Center in the middle of St. Louis. And one of their initiatives was something they call the 1 mile radius. And she was able to help them expand their reach into their own neighborhood and to open up the doors of the museum to the community in new ways. And then the next slide is Efwa Osei. Efwa was working with the Shakespeare Festival of St. Louis, and the Shakespeare Festival does something very exciting. They always have something called Shakespeare in the Streets, and it is a program that takes about 2 years to form. And Efwa was very excited to be able to work with a program they did that crossed the Mississippi. So North St. Louis County in Pagedale and a small town across the river in Illinois shared a play of Shakespeare that was then adapted to reflect their two communities. And Efwa was very integral into creating the context with the people in those communities. And it became a very exciting project for her. And she was a sophomore when she came to us, a rising junior. So I hope that that's something that everyone will consider. And then the next slide. So then I want to introduce to you Stephanie Whedon-Smith, who is our Assistant Director for Community Engagement. And I may say that she is also the mastermind behind Arts of Civic Engagement. And I'm always really happy to be working with her.
Always happy to be working with you, Roseanne. You give me so much inspiration. And so excited to be with all of you today. It's been wonderful listening to some of the introductions to our other signature programs. I have been fortunate to have a little touch with each of them, and I've learned a lot from each of these programs, and so excited, along with my colleague and now friend, because we've gone through a lot together already, Sarah Lovegreen. We are so excited to present the Goodman Fellows. It will be a partnership with the Greater Missouri St. Louis chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. We're excited, and what we have learned a lot from our other programs is this cohort model. So we'll have 3 fellows with the organization, embedded in the organization, similar to Arts of Civic Engagement, learning a lot from the staff there and some of the cutting edge support and work that they're doing at Alzheimer's Association. We also will be taking a look at their pillars and some of their work. Each of them will be working at different divisions of the organization with kind of an overlay of equity and inclusion, which has really been the lens that most nonprofits, organizations, they're really trying to be able to have that language into the work that we do. So we're excited about this newest one. We think that we'll really gain a lot from this experience. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll go into more of the details for you to know, and then I'll pass it off to Sarah to give more details about the mission and vision of Alzheimer's and some of the specifics. But for you, and what's most important is you're thinking about which program you might want to be a part of. This will be an 8th-month fellowship. Excuse that typo for rising sophomores and juniors and seniors. Again, it will be a $5,000 stipend. You'll get a chance to not only learn a lot and get some comprehensive training from Alzheimer's Association, you'll also, similar to the Goodman Fellows, have some weekly meetings with us to talk about the context of Alzheimer's in St. Louis and learn a lot about the history of St. Louis and some of the interconnections that are happening in this community. And then again, we hope, all of this work that we feel it really stands on experiential learning. So we really, even in this remote environment, we may not have boots on the streets, but we really are going to be introducing you to folks in the community, learning about the community, having a real sense of what it is impacting that's very different from other communities. There's a lot of conversation in terms of some of I would say the assets that St. Louis has, including, Cortex and our startup culture. But there's also many of the areas of challenges that we have that we hope that a program like this fellowship can start to give you some more awareness and ways that you could really get involved in. So Sarah, I'm going to pass the baton to you just to tell us a little bit more about your work and some of the specifics of the different pillars.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. So at the Alzheimer's Association, we have traditionally been a social service organization, I think evolved to a more of a public health association, really focused on, at the end of the day, we want to see Alzheimer's and all other dementia go away. We would love to be out of a job. But till we get there, we are focused on continuing to be a global leader in research in terms of conducting that research and in funding that research. That doesn't happen quite as much here in Greater Missouri, but we are proud to be partners with the Knight Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, who we are certainly very close with, and other universities in the state that receive funding from the association. We are also, one of our goals is to maximize care and support, which I'll talk a little bit more about, but also expand access to early diagnosis and information on risk reduction. And so those are relatively new changes to our mission statement that we just implemented this year, and certainly extremely excited about. As Stephanie mentioned, we have a couple of different, we call them pillars, our strategic pillars, and that's really how we focus our energy and our efforts as an organization to achieve our mission of a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. So one of those is our care and support work. That's the work that I lead around our direct services, which is information and referral and care planning services we provide to family. Our community education program, which is really one of our most important pieces, and certainly where we expect our fellows to be focused in expanding access to and understanding of our community education opportunities. Another pillar of engagement for us is concern and awareness. And that really comes down in the nitty-gritty to marketing and communications, with the goal of creating concern for Alzheimer's and all other dementia as a health issue within the community, and then also raising the awareness of the Alzheimer's Association as an active player in that disease condition. And last but not least, we have our public policy efforts. And those public policy efforts are really grassroots driven. We rely on, right now, I think about the numbers 10 to 11,000 advocates across our service area to help be our voice at the state and federal level to pass key legislation. For example, in 2019, we had passed a Medicaid waiver that would expand support for caregivers who are caring for someone at home. And so what we're hoping to see through this fellowship, and certainly is how we can continue to collaborate across our departments, across our pillars, to bring more of the community into our mission and bring them into the fold so that they can learn about Alzheimer's disease, reduce their risk, and become an active voice, whether as a volunteer advocate or as a volunteer community educator, or in a number of other volunteer ways. And so what we need to learn more about is, who are we already reaching in the community? Where are our community champions, and where are our gaps? And from that learning and that research based on the data that we have, we want to collaboratively with our fellows build a plan to fill those gaps and do better. And I think that's where, we're continuing to work out some of the bugs, but we're really excited to see, our fellows get to dig deep in our community education, marketing and communication, and public policy efforts, but then also work collaboratively to really accelerate our work, particularly in the St. Louis region. Did I get it all, Stephanie?
You did, right on. Thanks so much. I'm going to pass it back to Genesis.
All right, thank you, Stephanie and Sarah, and to all of our presenters, to Teresa, Roseanne, and Nicole. And we're going to take a moment just to do a quick recap. Some things we want you to keep in mind, first of all, is that between the 4 programs that you've heard today, the only St. Louis-based programs that we have are Goldman's, Arts and Civic Engagement, and the Goodman Fellows. The Civic Scholars Program, when it's in full non-COVID capacity, can be St. Louis-based, or it can also be national or even global in some of the projects that we've had before. Additionally, this chart shows some of the variations between the programs and some things that you want to keep in mind. So say, for instance, if you take a look at the Civic Scholars Program and you compare it to the other programs, Civic Scholars is for current sophomores. Goodman Fellows, you can be in a year as long as you're a continuing undergraduate student. Arts and Civic Engagement is specifically for current sophomores and juniors. And then the Burlines is for any continuing undergraduate student as well. Each program offers a $5,000 stipend. The Civic Scholars Program is a 2-year program. Goodman Fellows is 1 summer plus 2 fall events. Arts and Civic Engagement is May, summer, September, and October. And the Goodman Fellows program runs from April, May, the summer, September, October, and November. Again, Civic Scholars is a not regional, it doesn't have a regional focus. It can be local, national, or international. And then Goodman Fellows, Arts and Civic Engagement, and the Goodman Fellows are all St. Louis-based fellowship opportunities. Additionally, with regards to the program elements, we've got a variety here. So with Civic Scholars, it does incorporate academic curriculum for a total of 3 credit hours. And you're also able to conduct individual summer projects during your junior year, the summer of your junior year. Goodman Fellows is a cohort experience, and you're able to secure unpaid internships with a nonprofit, community, or governmental organization. Arts and Civic Engagement offers a 5-month residency within the arts organization, working with community engagement as part of its mission. And the Goodman Fellows is an 8-month fellowship within the Greater St. Louis chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. Or actually, let me take that back. It's the Alzheimer's Association of Greater Missouri. Am I getting close there? I'm getting there. Yes, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to, by the end of this presentation, I'll have it ready for you. All right. Additionally, the programs offer different partnerships. So with regards to Civic Scholars, your project can be self-directed or part of an existing organization. Opportunities are identified with support from the Institute staff. For Goodman Fellows, your internships are secured after you're accepted, as Nicole mentioned, into the fellowship, with support from Institute staff. For the Arts and Civic Engagement program, the Institute staff matches students with pre-selected organizations to work on predetermined projects. And lastly, your internship with through the Goodman Fellows program is that you'll be able to work with the staff at St. Louis, our Alzheimer's Association of Greater Missouri, and you'll be paired with projects there. And one that's really, really very important to keep in mind is the deadlines. Each program, the deadlines to apply vary slightly. So with the Civic Scholars program and the Goodman Fellows program, you'll notice that both the application deadlines are on Friday, February 19th. For the Arts and Civic Engagement residents and the Goodman Fellows program, their application deadline is on Friday, March 5th. So let's now take a look at the application overview. So in January, as you can see, we're starting to have a lot of program-specific information sessions, and our applications for the Civic Scholars Program and the Goodman Fellows Program went live on Friday, was it January 19th. In February, what you'll find next is that it will have some more program-specific information sessions. The application deadlines for the Goodman Fellows and the Civic Scholars Program will be on Friday, February 19th. And then the selection committees will invite students to be part of interviews once you make it past the first round. In March, the Civic Scholars Program and the Goodman Fellows Program will actually have made their decisions by March 12th. Actually, that's a typo for us. So it should be Friday, March 12th, if I have my dates right. On March 5th. The interviews will follow shortly thereafter. Let's see, Civic Scholars and Goodman Fellows notification, there it is, on March 12th. And then the Arts and ACE and the Goodman Fellows notifications will be on March 26th. Your next steps. So one, you're already doing it. For those that you are already here, you're attending a information session. And if you would like to have more specific information on the programs that you've heard here, we invite you to attend a program-specific information session. And those will be held February 3rd, February 4th, February 5th, and I believe also February 2nd. So we'll have 4 of those, and also on March 4th. So we'll make sure you receive additional information about when those program-specific informations will be held. If you'd like to have some more immediate information, we invite you to go to our website, to gephardtinstitute.wustl.edu, and click on our programs where you can learn more about each program specifically, and you can also see our application process, so you'll see what we're asking of students when they apply. And lastly, we invite you to connect with current and previous scholars and fellows, as well as the Gephardt Institute staff, because it's a great way to learn about experiences, what each student has engaged in, what kind of learning opportunities they've had, and you can also get the insider's perspective about their thoughts on each of the programs. All right, back to that information on the information sessions. So right now we're having our signature programs, which encompasses all the programs. And then starting February 2nd, as I mentioned, we're going to get into the program-specific information sessions. So we start with the Civic Scholars Program on February 2nd, and that information session runs from 5 to 6. The Goodman Fellows information will be on February 3rd. Then on February 4th, we'll have Arts and Civic Engagement. We'll also have the Goodman Fellows, and then the Goodman Fellows will all be hosting program-specific information sessions on February 4th. And then our final program-specific information session will be held on Friday, February 5th from 12 to 1 for the Civic Scholars Program. Additionally, we will be holding drop-in sessions to where you can get some questions answered about the application process. You can meet with current and former students, and they can also help you along with some of the questions that you may have. These drop-in sessions will be held on February 16th from 4 to 6, February 17th from 4 to 6, and then on February 18th from 3 to 6. All right, now it's time for our question and answer session. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to either share that with us in the chat, or you can just raise your hand and we'll try to call on you if we see anybody with a question. So we're just checking. Anyone have any questions today? All right, everyone has received so much information. Oh, Rachel, I see you have a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. I was wondering if it would be possible to apply to more than one program, or if you only apply to the one you're most interested in.
Happy to take that. Yes, so you can apply to multiple programs. The way that we have set up the application now is that we have sort of common application essay questions. So there's 2 questions that's consistent across all 4 programs. And then depending on which programs you're interested in, you can select as many, but you will answer 2 additional essay questions for each of those. So what will happen is you'll just indicate to us the ones that you want to apply for, answer those questions, and then what we'll do on the back end is, like, if, say, you're applying to Goldman and Civic Scholars, which is due at the same time, Nicole and I will get together and say, like, compare notes, like, okay, here's where we may have some overlap. Where do we think would be the best, like, if we both wanted to extend an invitation to our programs, where do we feel like would be the best fit? And in thinking about the cohort construction that we're developing and keeping in mind as well. So that's how that'll work. You won't have to do anything extra. We'll work it out on our end.
Thank you.
Great question. What other questions do we have? Well, all right, guys, it looks like, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you guys so much for such a great presentation already. I was also just wondering, for the when we're reaching out to people for letters of recommendation, do we give the information, like the contact information, to the Gephardt Institute as well as reach out to them on our own? Or should we do one or the other? Is there any sort of preference that you all may have?
All right, does anyone want to take that one?
I think that's a you question, Genesis.
All right, super. So since it's a me question, one of the things that I'll do really quick is I'll do a quick screen share here so you can take a look at what the application process looks like a little bit. So on our website, this is, sorry, I'm scrolling very quickly. Sorry about that. Hopefully I'm not making anybody dizzy. This is our common application. And so on the common application, once you get through some of the demographic information, you have an opportunity to list the name of your recommender, especially if it's somebody that is a non-campus recommender. So if you're looking to have maybe perhaps a high school teacher or a someone in the community that you've already done a lot of work with, and you would like to have them be that person that recommends you, you can type their name and their email address in here. And so it gives you 2. And for your recommenders, for the information they submit, we're asking that each of our candidates email that or have their data there. So that way we can make sure that we have the names of your recommender if they're non-WashU staff, and then we can also receive their recommendations.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you, great question. All right. Well, it looks like we may have answered everything for today, but we do invite you to email us, and I will put up that slide so you can see how you can get in contact with us in just a moment here. And let's see here. Are you guys able to see the email us page? Okay, super. So if you have any questions with regards to the Civic Scholars program, we encourage you to send an email to civicscholars@wustl.edu. For the Goldman Fellows program, it's goldmanfellows@wustl.edu. For the Arts as Civic Engagement Program, it is Roseanne, Roseann Weiss, Weiss, @wustl.edu. And for the Berline Fellows Program, you can send that directly to your questions to Stephanie Wheaton-Smith at wheaton-smith.s@wustl.edu. And we want to thank you again for attending today's presentation. Thank you to each of our program presenters. We appreciate you. And we hope that you will join us in one of our upcoming sessions for a program-specific information session where we're going to go a lot more in depth with each of the programs that you've seen here today. More information about these sessions may be reviewed on our website, or I'd be happy to send you a flyer as well. I'll try to drop them in the chat before you leave. And also don't forget, before you log off today, we just invite you to fill out and complete our sign-in sheet, as it will help us better serve our campus and our community. And thanks so much for attending. We appreciate you for being here.